It's 2 a.m. You're lying in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. Your mind is replaying that conversation from 3 days ago. What you should have said, what they must have thought, what might happen next. Then it shifts. Work, money, health, relationships. The worries stack on top of each other like cards you didn't ask to hold. Exhaustion finally drags you under for a few broken hours. You wake up drained, guilty, anxious, and the loop starts again. Here is what no one tells you, that feeling is not a character flaw. It is not weakness. It is not just who you are. What you're experiencing is a neurological loop, a pattern your brain runs on autopilot, completely without your permission. The terrifying part, the longer it runs unchecked, the stronger it becomes. The hopeful part, because it is learned, it can be unlearned. And today, we show you exactly how. Welcome to Vital Reset Health. What you're about to understand about your own brain will change how you see every anxious moment going forward. Because once you see the machinery behind the anxiety loop, you cannot unsee it. And that awareness is the first crack in the wall. Here is the architecture of what's happening inside your skull. Two brain regions are locked in a power struggle. The first is your amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure deep in your brain that acts as your 24/7 threat alarm. The second is your prefrontal cortex, the region just behind your forehead, responsible for rational thinking, decision-making, impulse control, and emotional regulation. Under normal conditions, they communicate well. Amygdala spots a threat, fires an alarm. Prefrontal cortex evaluates whether it's real and calms the system. But when chronic stress takes hold, that balance collapses. The amygdala becomes hyperactive, firing alarms at memories, at hypotheticals, at imaginary threats. The prefrontal cortex, weakened by poor sleep, elevated cortisol, and constant overstimulation, loses its ability to regulate those false alarms. The result is ruminative thinking, a feedback loop that pulls you deeper into worry with no off switch. And the consequences are not just emotional, they are cognitive. When your brain is stuck in this loop, your attention splits, your decision-making deteriorates, your focus collapses. You are running on half a processor and wondering why everything feels impossibly hard. Today, we cover 3 things: the science of the 4-step anxiety loop, why it's destroying your focus and daily performance, and 3 concrete steps to interrupt, rewire, and rebuild your baseline. We'll also discuss targeted nutritional support that works with your neurobiology. Stay with me. The 4-step anxiety loop. Let's break the loop into its 4 steps. You cannot interrupt something you cannot see. Step 1, the trigger. Every anxiety loop begins with a trigger, but here is what most people miss. The trigger does not have to be real. It can be a memory, a hypothetical, a news headline, a tone of voice. Your amygdala does not distinguish between an actual threat and the thought of one. It reacts identically. Cortisol surges, adrenaline spikes. Your body enters threat mode, even though you're sitting on your couch worrying about something that hasn't happened and may never happen. Step 2, failed regulation. Under normal conditions, your prefrontal cortex steps in within seconds, evaluates the false alarm, and sends calming signals back. But under chronic stress, the prefrontal cortex operates at reduced capacity. Elevated cortisol actively impairs prefrontal function. So, the alarm keeps ringing. Nobody answers it with reason. Step 3, rumination. When the prefrontal cortex fails to regulate, the brain tries to solve the threat by thinking about it more. This is rumination, replaying the same worry, searching for a resolution that thinking alone cannot provide. Here is the neuroscience twist. Each time you replay the worry, your brain releases small amounts of dopamine in response to the mental activity. It interprets the rumination as doing something useful. It reinforces the loop. It makes it stickier, more automatic, harder to escape. Step 4, the consequence cycle. Rumination perpetuates cortisol output. Elevated cortisol weakens the prefrontal cortex. A weakened prefrontal cortex fails to regulate the next trigger. The next trigger reinforces amygdala hyperreactivity. This is not a metaphor. This is a measurable, documented neurological cycle that most people have been running for years without ever knowing it had a name. Now, you know it does. That changes everything. Why it kills focus. You might think anxiety is primarily emotional. It is not. It is a cognitive crisis, and the damage it inflicts on your daily functioning runs far deeper than most people realize. Start with working memory. Your prefrontal cortex holds and manipulates information in real time. When it's already overloaded, managing a threat signal, it has almost no bandwidth left for actual cognitive work. This is why you read the same paragraph 4 times and absorb nothing. Why you walk into a room and forget why you went there. Why conversations feel like you're hearing them through glass. Then there is decision fatigue. Every perceived threat, real or imagined, shifts resources towards survival responses and away from higher-order thinking. Impulsivity increases. You make reactive decisions instead of intentional ones. You avoid tasks that feel overwhelming, even when avoidance makes everything worse. You procrastinate not out of laziness, but out of neurological overload. Then there is the cortisol-hippocampus connection, one of the most alarming pieces of neuroscience in this entire conversation. Your hippocampus is your brain's memory consolidation center, densely packed with cortisol receptors. Chronic cortisol exposure literally shrinks hippocampal volume over time. In plain language, brain fog, fragmented memory, difficulty learning, a sense that your mind used to be sharper and you're not sure where that version of yourself went. The downstream effects touch everything. You stop taking risks, creative, professional, personal, because your nervous system is locked in survival mode. Social interactions become threat assessments. You are not living, you are enduring. And the cruelest part, society says, just think positive or stop worrying, as if willpower could override a neurochemical system running an automated program. It cannot. Rewiring requires strategy, not just effort. Step 1. Interrupt amygdala hijack. When the anxiety loop fires, you have a narrow window. Neuroscientists estimate 6 to 10 seconds before the amygdala fully takes over and rational thinking goes offline. Your goal in step 1 is to use that window. The most evidence-backed tool is controlled breathing, specifically the 4-7-8 pattern. Inhale through your nose for 4 counts, hold for 7, exhale fully through your mouth for 8. Repeat 3 to 4 cycles. Why does this work? Because extending the exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest state, which directly counteracts the cortisol surge. You are not just calming yourself emotionally, you are chemically shifting your nervous system's operating mode. The second tool is emotional labeling. The moment you notice the spiral beginning, say, out loud or in your mind, I am having an anxiety thought. Not, I am anxious. That is an identity statement, and it backfires. I am having an anxiety thought is a cognitive label. Research from UCLA and others shows that naming an emotion reduces amygdala activation while simultaneously recruiting the prefrontal cortex. With one phrase, you are shifting neural power from the alarm system to the reasoning system. Practice this now when you're calm, not only when you're in the loop. Build the habit so it's available when you need it most. Step 2. Rewire prefrontal control. Interrupting the loop buys you a moment. Rewiring it changes the pattern permanently. Step 2. rebuilds prefrontal dominance over time. The first technique is graduated exposure, voluntarily and incrementally facing the thoughts or triggers your anxiety tells you to avoid. Avoidance gives short-term relief and long-term reinforcement. Every time you avoid a feared thought, you teach your amygdala it's genuinely dangerous. Every time you face it in a controlled way, you teach your prefrontal cortex it can handle it. Start small. Think about a minor worry deliberately for 2 minutes, then redirect. Build from there. The second tool is worry journaling with an evidence audit. Write the worry at the top of the page. Write every piece of evidence that supports it, then write every piece of evidence that contradicts it. Finally, write the most realistic outcome based on actual data rather than fear. This forces the prefrontal cortex to engage analytically with material the amygdala has been treating as emotional fact. It builds a new neural pathway between the worry and a rational response. Third, daily mindfulness. Just 5 minutes. Not to relax, to train. Consistent mindfulness practice increases gray matter density in the prefrontal cortex and reduces amygdala reactivity within weeks. You are building a stronger brake system. 5 minutes a day. Step 3. Rebuild baseline and Neuro Sharp. Steps 1 and 2 give you tools. Step 3 changes the terrain those tools must work with. Because no technique performs at full power on a depleted baseline. Sleep is neurological maintenance. 7 to 9 hours is when your brain clears cortisol, consolidates memory, and restores prefrontal function. Without it, every other strategy in this video underperforms. Exercise is your brain's most powerful natural anti-anxiety mechanism. Aerobic movement increases BDNF, promotes neuroplasticity, reduces baseline cortisol, and directly supports prefrontal function. 20 to 30 minutes of moderate cardio, 5 days a week. Diet matters too. Chronic inflammation from processed food disrupts the gut-brain axis, impairs neurotransmitter production, and elevates cortisol. Whole foods, omega-3s, fiber. And then there is targeted nutritional support. This is where Neuro Sharp enters the conversation, formulated specifically for the neurological challenges we have covered today. Bacopa supports memory consolidation and stress adaptation, helping the hippocampus function under cortisol pressure. Ginkgo biloba improves cerebral blood flow, ensuring your prefrontal cortex has the oxygen and glucose it needs. Phosphatidylserine has been shown in clinical research to reduce cortisol spikes during mental stress. Lion's mane mushroom stimulates nerve growth factor, a protein critical for maintaining and growing neurons in the prefrontal regions responsible for focus and emotional regulation. Rhodiola rosea reduces mental fatigue and supports sustained cognitive energy without the crash of stimulants. These are not magic pills, they are precision tools for a specific job, rebuilding the neurological infrastructure that anxiety loops erode over time. Combined with sleep, exercise, and the behavioral steps above, they give your brain what it needs to perform at the level you deserve. You came to this video because something in you recognized the loop. Maybe you've been running it for months, maybe years. And underneath the exhaustion, the fog, and the constant hum of worry, you knew there had to be an explanation and a way out. Now you have both. You know the 4 steps keeping you locked in. You know why your focus has been collapsing and why it is not your fault. You have 3 concrete strategies to interrupt, rewire, and rebuild. And you understand how targeted nutrition supports the process at the biological level. The next step is right below this video. In the description, you will find a free link to the Brain Focus Mastery ebook, a complete week-by-week implementation protocol that expands everything we covered today into a structured guide you can start tonight. Download it. It costs you nothing. You will also find the link to Neuro Sharp with full ingredient transparency and the research behind every compound. No hype, just the science and the support your brain has been asking for. Break the loop, reclaim your focus, reclaim your life. The link is right there waiting for you. Thanks for watching. Like, share, comment and subscribe.